Welcome back. We free up some much needed space by taking those bikes and putting them up there. Look at all the room we've got on the floor for doing little projects. It is fantastic and it's very simple and easy to do. Come along as we do a step-by-step on how to get these bikes hung from the roof. Okay, so I've just been down to our local Bunnings. It's quite handy being just down the road, and picked up 2 of these bike storage ceiling hoists. They're very, very cheap. They're like $25 to $30 and should really do the job of freeing up a bit of floor space within this shed so we can get a few projects done. They come with all these pulleys, one for the front, one for the back, the holders for the bikes, handle for the rope, screws and fixings, and this sheet of paper. They don't really have any instructions, so that's quite a challenge, I'd imagine, for most people to actually try to work out. You get a diagram, sort of shows how it should be when it's installed, but at the moment there's no real instructions floating around. I even went onto the website. I haven't got any tutorials or anything there on how to put it together. So I thought I'd do a little video tutorial on how to put these ceiling hoists onto a roof and help others out that are trying to do the same thing in the future. Sit back and enjoy. Okay, here's our 2 mountain bikes we want to mount from the ceiling. They're not fancy by any means, but it's just a way of us riding around with the boys and getting out and about, enjoying things a little bit. Firstly, you want to find a clear space on your roof or ceiling where your bikes can hang down. Obviously, you're not going to pick an area where it's really, really low, where the bikes might hang down and cause an obstruction. You also want to be clear of light fittings and other things that you might want to store within your shed, garage, or other space where you're looking to put the bikes. We're lucky enough to have a purlin which sits in between our 2 bays of lights. I think that's an ideal spot to hang the 2 bikes, 1 in each bay of the shed. They'll be high enough that you can drive under if you need to, and easy to access being in the middle of the shed. So if something is stored in here, usually you've got a bit of an aisle down the side of a camper trailer or vehicle where you can hoist or winch the bikes back down. Okay, so first up, these hooks go over your handlebar. They've got a pulley in them, and then onto the back of your seat. So I think the best way to do it is to measure from one end to the other, and that'll work out where we put our brackets when we get to the roof. So by doing that, I'm going to make it 700mm, which takes me just short of the seat, to mount each of the plates onto the purlin on the roof. This allows for a little bit of tension down the sides of the bike, which will pull it back up onto the roof. Now, because we're putting 2 bikes on the roof, we need to make sure we're spacing them far enough apart. So a good rule of habit is to lay them out roughly how you want them and then measure in between. Now, noting we've actually got a little bit of angle coming back on each of these, I'll allow for that when I measure it, just to get a minimum distance. So in this case, I'm going to make it about 1.5 meters in between the 2. So I'll come out 750 from the top on both sides of the rafter, and that'll be our setting out point for mounting these bikes up. Okay, to make things easier, I've got a leftover piece of purlin from out the back, and by luck, the carriers fit very, very well on each track. So measuring out 700mm, this is roughly how it's going to sit on the roof. What I'm going to do is just do a trial, run the ropes through, sit them over the top of the bike and see how it works before we get up and work upside down on the roof. Drill holes that we don't necessarily want to do. Just want to check and make sure that this is all going to work while it's on the ground before we pull it up. One thing we're going to use is the normal roofing screws. Got a whole heap of roofing screws left over from our fence in our shed, and these should be more than enough. I think 4 in each piece to hold them on. The bikes aren't that heavy, they're not moving around, and let's get into it, do a test. For the sake of the test, I'm just going to put 2 in each piece. Again, I'm not going to lift them up off the roof. Going by the pictures, you get the end of the rope, you feed it through this hole. So this is the back carrier, the rear carrier that will sit above the seat of the bike. Thread it through. You want to tie a knot in it. I might end up doing 2. Pull it through, and then you're going to have to thread the rope back through the carriers in accordance with the diagram. Grab the other end of the rope and feed it through the first carrier. And then through the pulley of the rear carrier. Then we're going to go through the first pulley of the front carrier. Set that down. It's hard doing it upside down. Back through the pulley of the front hook. Around through the pulley, the front pulley which has the brake on it. I'm going to slide this down. And then up and through the brake mechanism. So in a simple way, setup looks something like this. Okay, just to aid the explanation of what we've just done. We've threaded one end of the rope through this part, the rear carrier, and tied a knot to it. So that holds it in place. We've then threaded it through the rear bracket which goes onto your bike seat. It then passes up and threads around the top of the rear pulley of the rear carrier. It goes across and through the rear pulley of the front carrier, down and around the pulley of the front handle that goes onto your handlebars, the bracket, up through the top pulley and then down through this brake assembly here. Now I'm not exactly sure how this brake assembly works, but what we're going to do is put it in this way. I have a feeling this is how it goes together, and then we'll reroute it if we need to, because it's just how this breaks on and off, its functionality as to how it actually works. It would be really good if they included a diagram of critical things such as this, because if you're trying to lift a bike up onto a ceiling or onto a roof, you really want to have this kind of thing right before you go doing that, just to save yourself a whole heap of pain and grief. But anyway, that's roughly what the setup will look like. What we'll do now is we'll go and test it on the bike and make sure this pulley arrangement does in fact work. Okay, I've just quickly set it up just to make sure my spacings are all right, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think it's got a little bit of tension sort of on an angle leaning inwards, and that should work out pretty well. So what we'll do now is we'll fix it to the ceiling and give it a trial in real life. Okay, now we've got our brackets up, got a rope in one end, it's time to thread it all through and I hope it works. Okay, now we've got a bike on, let's test it and see if it works. Voila! Okay, to let it down, this is a case of pulling down, releasing the brake, and you can now lower your bike back down. Okay, it's another day here in the shed and I've nearly finished the install of the bike, so I had to duck off and pick the boys up from school. So what I've done is I've gone and bought a third one of these ceiling hoists, and what I'll do is I'll also demonstrate how the brake works on our demonstration piece here before I go and put it up. I figure we might as well get all three mountain bikes up on the roof, seeing as though the other two seem to be hanging in there and working pretty well. That'll just create or clean up the floor space, so we've only got the two small bikes here, which I've got mounted on some little mobile stands you also get from Bunnings. I think that's going to be the best solution. While I was down at Bunnings, I also picked up some of these. So these are rope organisers. What I plan on doing is hooking the rope around these. You know, they've got the area where the rope sort of goes through so it can't slip back out. And I also bought some of these just cheap Caribbean style clips, which we can use to put the rope around and fix it up onto the bikes. Okay, we've got our trial set up here. So this is how it would sit when the bike's stored up on the roof or ceiling. So all the weight is on this hook and the brake is in the on or upwards position. Now to lower the bike back down, all you do is pull down on the cord and that'll click it back down and you can start lowering your bike back down. Now to pull it back up to the ceiling, it's the same operation, you just pull it back up. Now the tension of the bike on the cord is actually going to lift this up and lock it back into place. It's that easy. And really, that's a good safety mechanism that's going to make sure the bike doesn't release and fall back down from the ceiling. Now, one thing I found is you might just have to jiggle this cord around a little bit if it gets obscured by the handlebars or another part of the bike, just to make sure that it can release and let it go, because sometimes it'll want to just lock back up depending on the angle of the rope. So if you get a little bit frustrated, just reposition the cord so you can freely lower the bike back down to the ground. So there we have it. Bike mounted to the roof of our shed. It's worked extremely well. To get all three up there has just saved so much space down here on the floor, which is typically all cluttered up. Now, apologies for the lights flickering. It's just something you get with these LED lights. Now this cable holder worked really well. You just roll the excess cable up. I didn't even use the carabiners in the end. Just put it on the little clip at the end, up there in the top, and then I've just shoved it in the wheel because at the end of the day it's staying there and it's making it nice and easy with one less step to unclip to get the bike down when you want to use it at the end of the day. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully this gives another idea for saving some space around the home. If you enjoyed watching what we do, please like, subscribe and share around so everyone can see. It's all about coming up with solutions and helping people out that might be searching for a certain way of doing things around the home. Enjoy and be safe.